News stories before we get going here. This was a big deal. The Trump administration demanded that a whole bunch of colleges revoke their DEI initiatives and change the content of their courses. And a preliminary injunction has been ruled blocking all that, saying you can't block federal funding and suppress the freedom of speech of the instructors. So that sounds pretty good. And hopefully it will hold up in later court hearings. But that would suggest that he's not able to crush the colleges as much as he wants to, which I'm happy to see. And the Attorney General in Texas tried to block Tylenol ads on the basis of the fantastic claim that Tylenol causes autism, which is entirely unsupported, like most of what Trump says, and a judge rejected it for that reason. You can't just make up a medical statement, have no evidence or proof of it, and start punishing the company for this made-up thing. So that's interesting. I wonder if Tylenol can sue the president. I would think they could, making a really authoritative statement that it causes autism without sufficient evidence. But maybe they are afraid of the consequences of suing Donald Trump. I'm glad to see this one. When I started, I got the very first Android phone because I figured I better learn about this stuff. And I checked out a lot of the apps, and there were a lot of really badly written apps, like apps that run your CPU at 100% all the time. And Google's finally going to do something about it. This, I think, is the reason why a general rule of thumb has been if you get an iPhone, the battery will last all day. If you get an Android, it often won't, because the apps just suck out too much juice, as Apple has strict rules about how you have to write the apps. And they audit them. You have to pass some tests of your app before it gets in the store, and that's not true of Android. So anyway, now apparently they are going to at least mark them so people know the apps that use too much battery, and that may help. So I was surprised to see this, but I read the details. I've got an M1 and an M4, and I do have an old Intel MacBook Pro, and that's what this is, of course. These are refurbished Intel MacBook Pros, so they're really out of date and using the Intel processor, which some people might prefer because there's more software that'll run on it, although a lot of software has been ported to the ARM infrastructure. Anyway, it's certainly a good price, but what you're getting is a pretty badly out-of-date machine. So I've followed Alzheimer's medical research all my life. It's an interesting topic. I remember when I was young, my father threw away our cookware because he said they were made of aluminum, and aluminum caused Alzheimer's. They later found out that even though the clusters of the cysts in the brain that form in Alzheimer's do have aluminum in them, exposing people to aluminum or rats to aluminum does not cause it, and denying them aluminum does not prevent it. The aluminum is not the cause. And they've wondered what they are. There was a treatment for Alzheimer's approved about a year ago that's very expensive, like $50,000 a year, and extremely ineffective, essentially no good effect at all. Several members of the medical board that approved it resigned in protest, saying this is awful to have an expensive treatment that doesn't even work. No one's quite figured out what to do, but these guys claim they have found something called tau nanoclusters, which form in the brain before those big obvious cysts, and that blocking that might prevent the Alzheimer's. So it's a new finding, and it might lead to effective Alzheimer's drugs someday. Of course, this is very early, and there's a long road between a medical discovery like this and actually a treatment you can use on people. So raccoons are everywhere. I see them. I see them hanging around our dumpster, going in there. I've heard that raccoons are actually pretty dangerous and fierce, so I keep my distance, but they're quite unafraid of me. And apparently this is happening. In fact, they have been analyzing how we ended up with dogs and cats as domestic pets. And what they say is they actually began by eating on our trash piles. And that got them used to hanging around humans. And what it did was create a very strong incentive to evolve into ones that were not scaring the humans. Because the ones that were scary, the humans would drive them away. The ones that looked friendly, the humans would let them hang around and eat the garbage. And the garbage was a really important source of food for the animals, which really makes a lot of sense. And one thing they do is their snout gets shorter, and they say they already see the snouts of raccoons getting shorter. So it doesn't mean you're going to see a lot of raccoon pets right away, but maybe in a couple of centuries, raccoons will evolve into pets, which would make a lot of sense. As far as I can tell, raccoons, and for that matter, skunks, seem to live entirely off human trash. So maybe they'll both become domesticated gradually. So Finger. I don't know if many of you have used Finger, probably not. Finger's a really old protocol on Unix servers, and all you could do is you could finger somebody, and then it would give you their profile. It was like the earliest version of like a social media profile. Before there was Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, there was a Unix thing called a Unix immediate chat system, which name escapes me in a minute. But the point is, you have two people who are sharing the same Unix shared server. They could then chat with each other on the server, and everybody had a profile. I remember if you created a new user on a Unix system, you'd have a profile that says, my goal or my plan. There's a thing called your plan. My plan is to learn enough Unix to replace this lame plan. And so you'd learn how to write a couple of sentences about yourself, and then anybody could finger your name and they would get some basic information about you, like your office location and your phone number and your email address and whatever little message you'd written. So anyway, that's out there. Now people are abusing it because if you think about it, that's just a way to store data. They can and apparently Finger was built into Windows, which I never knew. So you can finger a server, and the server will reply with what's supposed to be a description of somebody, and that will contain encoded malware to run on your machine. So it's a way to run a command and control server for an infected machine, and that's what they're using it for, which is pretty clever. Reminds me of the ones that use blockchain, like the Ethereum blockchain, for their command and control, so that the data is out there, it can't be erased, things like that. You just try to store data someplace where all the machines can get to it and where the good guys can't figure out how to take it down. And putting it on blockchain is a pretty good way to do it. So you may remember this, Elon Musk, who's from South Africa, and the whole PayPal mafia gang is, including David Sachs, who's now Donald Trump's cryptocurrency czar. And they have been claiming that the white people in South Africa are the real ones suffering. And so Trump declared recently, we're not going to take any refugees from anywhere except white people from South Africa, are the only people on earth so abused that we should let them in as fleeing refugees. And the Afrikaners have finally pushed back and said this is garbage. Everybody says this is garbage. I mean, the white people are no longer absolutely dominating South Africa and crushing the black people like they used to, but I don't think anybody's claiming that they're actually an oppressed, abused group. I think they're still doing fine. Anyway, this is going along. A lot of people push back, and more people are daring to push back against Trump. Trump's power is fading very rapidly in just the last couple of weeks. Everyone's been so terrified of him, like any other dictator, that they wouldn't dare cross him. Now, 4 prominent Republicans crossed him over the Epstein files, and he seems to just be losing his power very rapidly. And the MAGA coalition is splitting. The younger MAGA people, something I didn't see coming, the younger members of Trump's party are turning into complete open Nazis following Fuentes. Like the Hitler Youth, the older people are not willing to be anti-Semitic. Old people my age, like in their 60s and above, grew up in a time when pretty much every American supported Israel very, very much as a response to World War II. And those old Republicans are not willing to be open anti-Semites, which is what the Fuentes gang does. But anyway, the Trump coalition is splitting into 2 or 3 groups, and various people are vying to control it and rise in it, and it will be a lot of chaos as people struggle to figure out what to do with this movement if Trump falls, and Trump does seem to be losing his touch and falling as a power. So America has essentially no privacy laws that are worth anything. So everybody just hoovers up your data. Every website collects your data. Every phone app sends all your data up to companies. Facebook knows everything. Google knows everything. And they gather the data and then they resell it over and over to where it's a large source of revenue to get this data from people. And Europe responded by passing strong privacy laws. So you cannot collect any data from the user without telling them what you're going to use it for. And you can't later change your mind and use it for something else without getting permission. So that would end the whole data broker thing. And now they're bowing to pressure from America, and they're loosening their privacy rules, saying AI engines can spy on a lot of more private data to train them. Everybody is very, very afraid that somebody else will get ahead on AI, and that'll be terrible. Like another company getting nuclear bomb first, another country. I'm very skeptical of this. I'm teaching an AI course like next semester at City College. I've been teaching it all over. I've been using AI for decades, various versions of it. It's not as powerful and not as scary as everybody's making it sound. I really don't think it's like the atomic bomb or the internet. I think it's more like, say, the word processor, a better way to write things than a typewriter. It's a useful tool, but it doesn't revolutionize everything and mean everyone's going to get fired and all the workplaces are going to go away and all the governments are going to collapse. I don't think any of that garbage is going to happen. But the top leaders seem to be believing all this hyped up garbage and panicking over who's going to be the first to get AI. So I remember in the 60s, when I grew up, there were a lot of rumors that the government was doing horrible things to people, and it turned out to be true. And this woman was experimented on by the CIA. She went into mental ward for some mental problems, and they then gave her crazy experimental treatment like LSD without her knowledge or consent. After this, we have really strong human subject laws coming out of this, but we did a lot of things like that back then. It was a brutal time. And here's one of the many things wrong with AI. They found a lot of ways to just inject code which will not be blocked. And the defenses that protect AI engines are another AI engine, and they're subject to the same kind of flaws. That's why Microsoft has warned people that install its new AI that integrates with Windows that it's not safe, and you're taking quite a risk testing it out. Anyway, let me stop this.